Their latest report basically said wealthy individuals are moving out, families are moving out, and single filers are coming in. People who really can't afford New York City are coming here. You had to bail out New York City $8 billion this budget. They're saying they see a $10 billion budget deficit. What do you think? How do we stop this?
Well, first of all, the data that came out is from 2022.
Today on California Reports, a sitting governor gets asked a direct question about billions of dollars leaving her state and answers with everything except an answer. New York just got handed a number it can't spin away. And when a local news anchor pushed the governor to explain it on live television, she didn't defend her record. She deflected it 3 times.
You know, Tom, it is rare to have a one-day move this big. Markets recently beaten down hard by tariffs, but today reversing more than half of those losses. Best one-day gains in years.
By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that number is, why it exists, and why the governor, who's supposed to be stopping it, can't even say out loud who's responsible. Let's start with what actually happened. On Monday, July 13th, the nonpartisan Citizens Budget Commission dropped a report most New Yorkers never saw coming. It tracked something simple: New York's share of the country's millionaires. In 2010, New York held 12.7% of all U.S. millionaire households. By 2022, that number had fallen to 8.7%. That's the steepest drop of any state in America.
Dana, we're here at U-Haul on 23rd Street, where workers inside tell us that on the weekends, it is packed here with people moving out of New York City. Today, not that crowded. We ran into one couple who was moving, but say they're staying within New York City.
Here's what that decline actually costs. The commission calculated that if New York had simply kept its 2010 share of the nation's millionaires, the state would have collected roughly $10.7 billion more in personal income tax in 2022 alone. Add in New York City's own income tax losses, and multiple outlets are putting the combined hit north of $13 billion in a single tax year. That's not a projection. That's not a worst-case scenario. That's what already happened, according to the state's own most cited budget watchdog.
Their latest report basically said wealthy individuals are moving out, families are moving out, and single filers are coming in. People who really can't afford New York City are coming here. You had to bail out New York City $8 billion this budget. They're saying they see a $10 billion budget deficit. What do you think? How do we stop this?
So on Thursday morning, Fox 5's Rosanna Scotto put that number directly to Governor Hochul, live on air. And Hochul's first move wasn't to explain it. It was to challenge the year, pointing out that the data is from 2022. That's true. It's also beside the point because Scotto immediately followed up. Fine. Is it better now? New York City just needed an $8 billion state bailout in this year's budget. The city comptroller is projecting a deficit that could hit $10 billion. So, is it better? Hochul didn't say yes. She pivoted to the 2017 federal cap on the state and local tax deduction. Then to COVID.
And then what happens in 2020? Gets slammed with the pandemic. So people who maybe had a vacation home or a temporary home in Palm Beach said, I'm moving my whole family here. I mean, the city's falling apart here. Everybody's getting sick. I'm not staying.
What she never mentioned in that entire exchange, her own city's tax policy, her own mayor, or the man whose name has been at the center of this fight for months, Zohran Mamdani.
Our vision is that everyone stays in the city and that we have room for others to join us. What we often speak about is that the revenue that we would use from this increased taxation, it is to increase the quality of life of this same city that we all call home.
And here's what makes that silence interesting. This isn't the first time Hochul has said the quiet part about New York's wealthy residents leaving. Back on March 11th at Politico's Albany summit, she told a room full of state leaders that New York's tax base has been eroded and asked her wealthy supporters to help by visiting Palm Beach to try to bring former New Yorkers home. Let that sit for a second. The governor of New York, months before this report even existed, was already telling rich New Yorkers where to go looking for their neighbors.
Just to reintroduce myself, I'm Nick Reisman. I'm the Albany bureau chief here for Politico, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Governor Kathy Hochul now. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I do want to start with probably the issue that a lot of New Yorkers are really thinking about and talking about right now, and did the Bills give up too much for DJ Moore?
Yeah. I'd rather go to the more positive story. I think the Sabres are doing very well.
Yes.
I like the streak they're on, and I'm going to stick with what the prophet who tweeted back in 2018 said, which was, the Sabres will win the Stanley Cup in 26 and the Bills will win the Super Bowl in 27. So that has kept me going for years.
Buffalo's going to need a canyon of heroes, right? So yeah, it would have to be a ticker tape parade in Buffalo. I do want to actually stick with sports because this is kind of a preoccupation of mine. I'm fascinated by this more and more. Are you excited about the World Cup?
Yes. I just had another briefing on it this morning, our security briefing, which is really important given all the heightened security that's going to be required with bringing the world to New York. But this is once in a lifetime opportunity.
So is this actually new? No. It's the latest data point in a pattern that's been building for over a year. You've seen the corporate side of this story before. Private capital giant Apollo Global Management scouting a second headquarters outside New York. JPMorgan's own CEO Jamie Dimon writing to shareholders that the bank now has more employees in Texas than in New York City. Citadel's Ken Griffin relocating major operations to Florida years ago.
And now what the mayor of New York has made clear to my partners, and principally my New York partners, is that we need to double down on our bet in Miami because we want to be in a state that embraces business.
This new report is the individual taxpayer version of the exact same story. It's not just where companies put their next office, it's where the people funding New York's budget are choosing to live.
Escape from New York, the tax base has been fleeing the Empire State. And that was before a socialist was the front runner to be mayor of its biggest city. The top 1% pays more than 40% of all income taxes in New York. That means social services, benefits, healthcare, education. Well, those people are packing their bags and they're moving south.
And that choice is happening in the middle of a live political fight. Mayor Mamdani ran and won on a promise to raise taxes on the city's highest earners to fund his affordability agenda. Hochul, facing her own re-election, has refused to approve those state-level tax hikes. The result is a standoff, a mayor who wants to tax the wealthy more, a governor who won't let him, and a report showing the wealthy are already leaving under the current rates before any new hike even takes effect.
We are confronting a multi-billion-dollar budget deficit.
Indeed, Mayor Mamdani apparently needed quite the large chin cup in the Capitol today, but he says his predicted budget gap has actually changed. The mayor had forecast a $12 billion gap over 2 years, but today he says, thanks to updated estimates of tax revenues based on Wall Street bonuses and aggressive savings, the anticipated deficit has shrunk.
New York's business community isn't sitting quietly on the sidelines either. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink has publicly said he's worried about New York City's direction under Mamdani and floated investing elsewhere.
That's why we had the washout, and I think there's more stability at these levels here. But we don't see that much implicit leverage. For the scale of the capital markets today, the leverage is not as large.
And in an even more direct response, one local business leader launched what he's literally calling Operation Boomerang, a campaign funded with his own money, trying to physically lure companies that left New York back home. When private citizens are running counter-marketing campaigns to keep businesses in your state, that's not a talking point. That's an admission something real is happening. Now, to be fair, here's the other side of this, because the picture isn't one-directional. New York City's own commercial real estate data for early 2026 shows office leasing activity up, rents rising, vacancies falling.
Leasing increased by more than 25% from the third quarter, according to Colliers. Demand was 16% higher year over year and close to 52% above the 5-year quarterly average. So it was the island's strongest single quarter of leasing since the end of 2019.
American Express is building a new Lower Manhattan headquarters. Bank of America just signed a 20-year Midtown lease. Securities industry employment in the city is at a record high. Those are real numbers too, and they complicate any simple everyone is leaving narrative. But here's what those two sets of facts actually mean when you put them together. New York isn't collapsing. It's shifting. The city is keeping its existing base, the leases, the jobs, the buildings already there. What it's losing is the growth, the next hire, the next expansion, the next high earner who could have moved to New York but chose Florida or Texas instead.
And planning for people getting back to work and getting society functioning in a more healthy way.
Even the Citizens Budget Commission's own report notes California, a high-tax state, has actually grown its millionaire share, which complicates the simple taxes alone explain this story too. This isn't as clean as either side wants it to be. So why does any of this matter to someone who isn't a millionaire? Tax policy analysts note that the top 1% of earners pay close to 45% of all state income tax collected in New York in a given year. That concentration means the state's entire budget, schools, transit, Medicaid, the exact programs Mamdani wants to expand, leans heavily on a small number of taxpayers staying put.
Texas, those states with no state income tax, are really benefiting from this. Don, a report from the Citizen Budget Commission found that New York's share of millionaires dropped to 8.7% from 12.7% over 12 years. Beginning in 2010, that was the largest decline of millionaires in any state. It resulted in a loss of nearly $11 billion in state tax revenue.
When a disproportionate share of them leave, the shortfall doesn't just disappear. It gets filled by higher taxes on everyone else, deeper cuts to services, or both. And New York isn't unique here. It's the most watched version of a pattern playing out in other high-tax states right now, states quietly running the exact same math, watching what happens next before deciding what to do about it.
Today, the Texas Senate cleared an important hurdle, passing the budget to fund programs and state operations for the years 2026 and 2027. State senators unanimously passed the $336 billion budget.
Which brings us back to Thursday morning, and a governor who was asked a direct question, "Is this getting worse?" and never actually answered it. Not because she doesn't know, because the honest answer requires naming a fight she's been trying to avoid for months. The Citizens Budget Commission's next competitiveness update is expected later this year. New York City's next budget deadline is coming, and Mamdani's tax proposal is still sitting in Albany unresolved.
The new state budget delivers a major blow to Mayor Mamdani as it fails to include the income and corporate tax hikes that he had hoped for.
The $268 billion budget includes some things that New Yorkers can cheer about, like lowering car insurance rates, a crackdown on super speeders, and also included is a new tax on luxury second homes.
This isn't a story with an ending yet. It's a story with a next report card. And when that report comes out, we'll be back with the number that comes with it. If this broke something open for you, subscribe, because part 2 of this is already being written, one departing taxpayer at a time.